Hello and welcome. You're listening to CNET UK Podcast. This is episode 411 for Friday the 21st of November 2014. Thought you'd seen the last of Nokia? Those fins ain't finished as Nokia comes back with an Android tablet. Plus why Apple fans buy things they don't need and how GPS satellites are tracking cracks in space and time that hold the key to dark matter. I'm Rich Trenholm. Joining me in our high-tech London studio this week is Andy Hoyle.
Hey, I'm here.
Hello, good.
Hi.
Glad to have you here. And also Luke Westaway.
Hello.
Hello.
Also
Also
too.
As always, we are filming the podcast, so to get the 411, because this is episode 411.
Nice.
See? Yeah, nice.
Slick.
Check out this and all our videos on CNET or youtube.com/CNET. But for now, let's start with some Jolla good news.
Well, Rich, let me tell you one thing.
Yep.
It's Jolla.
Yeah.
Jolla. It's a soft J because it's a Finnish word. It's a Finnish company, in fact. Jolla, who we've previously seen a phone from, decided to launch a tablet, and it did it using Indiegogo, the crowdfunding campaign. What was particularly interesting is that within 2 hours of the campaign going live, it had already smashed its $380,000 target.
What?
That's pretty good going for for a tablet.
So there are loads of people out there crying out for a Jolla 7.9-inch Sailfish OS tablet.
Yes, Luke,
Who
you
knew?
have stepped on the money of what I was going to say next.
I've stepped on the money.
You've stepped on the money.
Trodden on it.
All over the place, because Yolla's got loads, and they've just left it lying around.
You've stepped on the money and you're going to stand there until hope that nobody notices they've dropped their money, so you can then slide your foot away subtly.
Like in school where someone drops a penny and someone like stamps their foot on it so you can't get it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the end game is there. They can stand there forever.
That's the new tech industry end game, I
I thought it
guess.
just meant like when you're in the post office queue and an old lady drops a $5 and you put your foot on it so she can't get it back, and you just wait there until she's collected her pension and leaves.
Yeah.
It's taking
Free $5.
I've been at the post office for hours sometimes because someone a few places ahead of me has been doing that to an old lady.
Everyone does.
Everyone's very understanding.
Everyone's got a fire on it. Anyway, you've
the
used
Jolla
Sailfish,
tablet.
haven't you?
I have used Sailfish before on the smartphone version. Now, Sailfish it's a different operating system, so it's not iOS, it's not Android. It's something new and different. It's actually based on Linux. It looks quite nice, and part of what's apparently most appealing about this, and I haven't spent a lot of time with it, so this is largely coming from Jolla themselves telling me about this, is that its multitasking is particularly good. It can have several apps actually running on screen at once. So the example that Mark Dillon, the CAO, gave to me was that you could be watching maybe a sports game and be on your social networks, like on Twitter.
Talking about the sports game.
Yeah, at the same time, you're not having to leave one app to go into something else. You can actually do it all on screen at one time.
Hey guys, how about that sports game? # sports game.
So on screen right now, you can see my lovely hand holding the phone, and also some of my band, including that's the Jawbone Up on my wrist there, replaced now with the Sony Smart.
Because
band
for audio
top.
listeners, what we're seeing is a video feed of Andy demonstrating a phone, but you can only see his hand and his wrist. It just looks like you've been tied to the table. It looks like you're wearing about 15
that's another
manacles.
hand.
He is wearing a lot of wristbands there. So that is the phone, not the tablet. So this is quite interesting. They could run Android apps. That's kind of cool. And they're also talking to the because it's a crowdfunded thing. They're talking to the audience.
Yeah,
aren't they?
part of what they really want to do with this is have the backers talking to Jolla throughout the process, and they've got this set up like this little community portal where you can go in and say things that you'd like to see in Sailfish.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they'll be able to put those actually into the software.
Sure.
They can't do that with hardware, of course. You can't say, oh, I want a 13 megapixel camera, because it's not something that you can just quickly improve on the fly like that. But software features they can include.
And also making demands like that would be quite Sailfish.
This guy!
Slow burn!
That's why they pay him the big bucks.
I wasn't listening to a word you've been saying because I was just trying to think of a point.
I saw you looking with that little smile on your face as well, but just tells me that a pun is coming.
It's not a little smile.
No.
This is quite interesting. I'm not sure if this is the future of technology for big names. I mean, Samsung or whoever has the money to spend millions of dollars on developing a new phone, but smaller companies, obviously, this is a good way of connecting directly with fans and gauging the demand. But at the same time, I don't know, if something's crowdfunded, if you put something out there and ask people to donate money to it, that just feels a little bit, like Oculus did it and they haven't put a product out yet, and all those people who
but they have been bought by Facebook.
Well, yeah, exactly. But people who put the money in, who got excited about it, they haven't seen a product yet.
No one didn't give a product to anyone, but they did get bought. They made a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If your product isn't ready, I think that's quite bad. If your product isn't ready at all, and you're you're kind of doing it hypothetically, if we get this money, we could look at doing this. That's pretty bad. But the way they're kind of doing it, it's basically the same as like pre-ordering. It's just making like you would with a good car. You'll put your money down, and then when they go into building, they know how many to make. They know what the demand is going to be, and so it's kind of.
It's like avoiding that, except instead of like a car, it was just a man who said that he would make you a car.
Yeah.
If you give him the money up front.
Well, that's how most sports cars are done. They're done on pre-orders.
Yeah.
But they don't build tons of them. They're all built to order. So.
I don't know. It doesn't quite sit right with me. Maybe it's just I haven't quite got with the paradigm shift that's happening here yet.
Granddad. Why don't you go down to Woolworths and buy yourself a big
Paradigm Shift, incidentally, is a brilliant song by Liquid Tension Experiment.
Oh, good. Well, we'll have to listen to that one.
I'll definitely look that up.
So on a similar note, so recently, it was a while ago now actually, Ubuntu tried to launch a smartphone on crowdfunding, and they had a particularly daft target of $32 million, which they didn't.
$32 million.
Was that what it was?
$32 million. They didn't get anywhere near it, but they did raise $12.8 million, which is pretty impressive.
$12.8 million, and that wasn't enough.
I don't think that was ever their plan to actually release a phone. It was only ever a prototype. But speaking of Ubuntu, that's another one of the niche OSs. Jolla.
Firefox OS as well has been one coming up. In fact, when we went to MWC the year before last, that was when we really started to see a lot more of these niche OSs cropping up. And in fact, I think we said that Firefox, or maybe it was Ubuntu, was one of the best things we saw at the show that year, because it had some like innovative new features, and it was software focused, and it wasn't about here's the latest best hardware. It was just more about bringing it down to bare bones. Which
in a year when all the phones were just like the previous year's phones, but with a slightly better camera.
Exactly.
It was an interesting new development. But they haven't really
gone anywhere. Because we've moved on from there, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. But they haven't really gone anywhere.
Those dark days are behind us. Yeah, you're right, Rich. None of these other operating systems have really done anything.
No, Tizen, for example, is hugely behind. Firefox OS has a few cheap versions. Ubuntu is on a couple of cheap phones in Spain and China, I believe. But they haven't really got anywhere. So
never mind.
We'll have to keep watching that. It'll be interesting to see how Jolla get on.
See.
But anyway, moving on.
Well, some big news. Big news. It turns out, actually, that Samsung fans are old dudes who like computer programming and toilet jokes.
Yep, and DIY.
And DIY, whereas Apple fans are women who buy things they don't need. Now, those are some big words, but that is according to YouGov profiles. Rich, tell us who YouGov's.
Smartphone buying something that they don't need.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was like fans of like warmth and apples or something, or like wheat and sustenance.
Well, Rich, you wrote this, so tell us who YouGov is and
why.
You
wrote this dosh.
Explain yourself.
Justifies. So what this is so I'm sure you've all heard of YouGov, the market research company that quite often does polls. They're not actually, I didn't know this, but they're not actually connected to the government in any way. They're not kind of a non-profit organisation. They're an online market research company. I think it's pretty shrewd marketing. You think you're signing a petition that might actually change something. I think that's when you fill in one of their polls. Anyway, so what they've done is they've pulled together some characteristics of people who like different things, not just tech brands, but everything, from food to films to singers and that kind of thing. And so we pulled out some of the sort of the tech fans and looked at what a typical tech fan would be. It's not quite a typical tech fan. It's kind of the way they put the data together is just suggesting some things that these people might like. So, for example, Samsung fans, they like Countryfile, Star Trek: The Next Generation, Police Academy,
I like Countryfile,
Reese Witherspoon, and Rex Harrison. There's some really odd names cropping up in here, actually. Android fans like James Blunt and Rita Ora, and TK Maxx and Twixes.
TK Maxx costs less.
So and Apple fans, I mean, there's some geographical information as well about where people live. So Samsung and Android fans tend to be a bit more. It's moved in the north, whereas Apple tends to be a bit more concentrated in London, according to this profile. Now, it's all a bit of a laugh, so before you write in, I'm speaking directly to you, angry commenter 256. This is it's all kind of a bit crazy. It's quite interesting. I mean, looking at BlackBerry, for example, they're really into Duncan Bannatyne, Theo Paphitis, and Renee Zellweger.
And wasting money on pointless products. This guy took it too far.
I've never spoken to a BlackBerry fan who wasn't talking about Renee Zellweger.
That's all they talk about sometimes.
Like Bridget Jones this.
Yeah, exactly.
Bridget Jones 2, The Edge of Reason that.
So there you go. So this is YouGov profiles. You can type in pretty much anything you're interested in to see what kind of things you're interested in. Tranmere fans are interested in singing. and I think it was basket weaving or something ridiculous.
Where's this
Well,
website?
that would just be exactly
name.
what you entered.
Exactly, which is me. Yeah, exactly. I'm the only channel. There you go.
DRD00MY1 in the comments says, taller, good-looking, rich and classy people use iOS. The common folk use Android.
Oh, tough, but that's what the data seems to bear out. There you go.
That comment didn't go down too well, I think. Yeah,
I can imagine.
I mean, this is all good fun.
It is. It is.
Fun,
it is.
fun
It is
nonsense.
all good fun. So
Fun
don't
sense.
take it too seriously.
Fun sense.
Anyway, let's move on. What else is going on?
Well,
world?
I will definitely know when I stop having looked for CNET on YouGov profiles, and
I tried that. It's not in there, unfortunately. Yeah,
I'm on it. It's right here.
No, but it's not.
There's no data on it.
Yeah.
But yes, so what else is happening? If you wanted to go somewhere, for example.
Well, for example, if you want to take an Uber, Rich, thanks
Yeah.
for reminding me what I'm talking about next, you can now listen to your own Spotify playlists
Wow.
in some Uber rides. So Uber has partnered with Spotify. So
this is Uber, the taxi app.
Uber, the taxi app, those taxi folks. So when you get into your Uber, which you'll have booked through the Uber app, that app will now let you control your Spotify playlist and play it through the car's speakers.
I can't imagine when I would ever want this to happen. I mean, of all the partnerships that the world needs, I don't know if Uber and Spotify are among them. To be
Uber
honest.
and Domino's, so you can get a taxi and a pizza on your way home from the pub would
Brilliant
be
idea.
brilliant.
Brilliant
Just saying
idea.
that, guys, you can have that one for free.
Well, the Domino's app, we got a press release today. Domino's app is on Xbox One, or about to be on Xbox One, I think.
So you don't even have to stop playing?
It's voice activated, so you can just be sat on the sofa and be like, Xbox, pizza, and it'll give you sort of status updates. It's brilliant. At no point in the process of ordering a pizza does your heart rate have to rise even a little.
you don't even have to have the fear of speaking to someone on the phone.
I was going to say, if only there'd been some kind of voice-activated way of ordering a pizza in the past. but yes, this. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, the one time I can imagine this would work is when it's like Saturday night and you're coming home from the club and you're all still drunk and you're going back to someone's house and you just pile into the car and you're like, driver, put on, put on radio on.
That sounds amazing for everyone except the driver. And actually, that's sort of what I think is weird about this.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a sort of decorum to be observed in a taxi or a private car that you've privateered because it's their office basically.
It's their place to work. Exactly.
Yeah, imagine if someone when your boss wanted to speak to you, they came over to your desk, sat down, and put their music on. You were like, right, Luke, let's talk through.
Sounds like kind of music.
But you are
if it was like really
renting their
sad, like
space.
funeral music or something, I'd be a bit worried.
Yeah, I mean, also, I don't really want. I would feel mean subjecting any Uber driver to my musical choices because I don't, they already sort of know where I'm going to and from.
Yeah.
I don't need them knowing that all I listen to basically is the soundtracks from musicals and
Frozen,
and Frozen, and reasonably
You have to fight the urge to
aggressive
sing along as well.
rock and roll music. Yeah.
What about listening to
there's-
headphones? I mean, you can listen to headphones.
Well,
That'd be a bit-
I have the problem with listening to headphones
Yeah.
in not so much black cabs, but in taxis like Uber where you've got a private driver. Because what is the etiquette when it comes to putting them in? And because you're making a big statement that I'm putting my headphones in, I am now blocking out you, do not talk to me, I don't wish to have a conversation with you on this journey, I want to listen to my music.
Yeah.
That's quite a big statement to make. And so what I tend to do, I'll get in the first few minutes I'll be like, good morning, and where are you going, and all this stuff. Maybe they'll say, what are you doing? Or what do you do? They'll even ask me what I do.
What are you doing?
After a few minutes,
What are you doing? You
What are
can't
you
do that
playing?
in here.
Don't touch my stereo. Stop playing. What music is this? What's that noise?
My technique though is after the first few minutes I'll put one earpiece in,
Yeah.
start listening, and then when the silence continues between me and the driver, then I know it's safe to put in the other one.
Then you maintain eye contact in the rearview mirror while
putting
slowly inserting the other one.
While he's talking. I think one headphone in to start with, and then the second one goes in at the first sign of
I
casual
think you're
racism, probably.
overthinking this. I think it's okay. I mean, taxi drivers must just look. Someone's got their headphones in, like, doesn't want to talk.
But sometimes they turn around and say things like, which way do you want to go, mate? Do you want to go? I don't care. Take me the quickest way.
Yeah, across that bridge they have. Go across that one. Yeah.
No, not into town, not across the bridge. Sorry, it's a
This was from
very
the other
Southwark
week.
specific reference.
Absolutely. So,
Okay.
but I mean, Uber is quite a hard company to like, right?
Yes, they've had a pretty bad run recently, press-wise, because of things like stories about Uber executives making jokes about sort of tracking journalists
which we don't like.
Digging up dirt on them. They reportedly recently fired a driver for tweeting something slightly negative. They're investigating an executive who reportedly accessed a BuzzFeed journalist's location without permission using a internal tool that's supposedly called GodView, which apparently lets employees watch account holders in real time and see their account history. So
basically tracking their movements,
Tracking their movements. So some pretty bad press, and that's not all, is it, Rich?
No, in France there was the app offered to pair you with a sexy female driver. Now, they didn't actually roll that out because the feedback was uniformly terrible, which you could probably see that coming. And also there's a bit of controversy around the fact that Uber drivers are not technically employees, they're called partners, so they have to pay themselves for petrol, insurance, car expenses, that kind of thing, and that's a bit of a raw deal, and it means that when rates change, they can end up taking home not very much money at all, and their role is quite precarious, like you say, they can be let go. Also, they've had a history of calling up rival services, other taxi apps, and booking fake journeys.
That's
childish.
I think it's fair to say that they kind of give off this aura of sort of like lad culture. Yeah. Like it's all a bit sort of hashtag banter.
It is. It totally is.
In a slightly unsavoury way.
There was speaking of which, there was on their blog actually. Nick, our sub-editor, pointed this to me. They had done a blog called. It was about the Walk of Shame, basically. And what they'd done was they correlated the data of people who had gone out and taken an Uber on Saturday night and then taken another Uber on Sunday morning. From a roughly the same location to sort of figure out who would, and they were trying to work out, they were looking at all these different sort of patterns, and it was just a bit grubby.
Very seedy, isn't it?
Yeah. But still,
oh well. I mean, it's weird because the service itself doesn't have to be. All it is a taxi firm. Yeah. And it's a really sort of. It's a good idea. So
it's strange that they're so divisive.
It's just frustrating that they're being so.
I also don't like when they have their premium rates.
Surge pricing.
When you go somewhere busy. But the best thing to do, wherever you're trying to get a pickup from and it says surge pricing, if you just drop that pin like around the corner on the road, just to a quieter road that's not on a main road, surge pricing nearly always goes.
Excellent tip. Taxi tip.
Good. Take that, Uber.
Money saving Andy right there.
Please don't track me or my family.
That's it. You're done. You're done now.
Game over.
Yeah, always pay surge pricing. I want surge pricing all the time, please. In fact, just take some money.
Surge pricing. It doesn't feel the same paying regular prices.
I hate that. I hate nothing about you. You're all just great.
Once you pay surge, you'll never pay.
In better news,
I'm quickly going to move on to some space news, if you don't mind.
What's going on in science?
There is so much going on in space. Well, first of all, actually, Rich, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about dark matter.
That's true, dark matter. Yeah, so this is this mysterious stuff that no one really knows what it is, or no one can see it, no one's ever seen it or touched it or knows where it comes from.
It makes up so much of our universe.
But it's 80% of our universe, because scientists reckon that's the only way of explaining the mass of the universe. We just can't see a lot of it. Then they call it dark matter, and no one quite knows what it is, but there's a new way of hunting for it that some scientists have thought about. And what they're planning to do is they're using GPS satellites. So GPS satellites, obviously they're above Earth, helping us to find our way on our phones and our sat-navs and that kind of thing, which is fantastic. And but one thing that you kind of forget is, even though they're above the Earth, and you sort of think of that as being they're in one place, the Earth is actually flying through space pretty fast, which means so are these satellites. So as they're whooshing through space, they're potentially passing through these potential sources of dark matter, which are these kind of cracks in the quantum fields of the universe, which make time go a bit weird. So what will happen is, as these satellites whoosh through these cracks where potentially dark matter
they lose
originates,
minutes.
Then who knows? Yeah, they wake up and they're like, what's happened? And they've got a cast on their leg and they don't know what's happened.
It's 8 minutes later.
Exactly.
There's traffic going in their beds and
and they know what's happening. So so it's kind of disrupts time, and then so they're thinking that maybe they'll be able to see the signature of dark matter. So potentially this is a way of finding dark matter, which is quite interesting. I mean, there's a lot of different theories about dark matter, and for example, they reckon that it might come from something called machos, which is massive astrophysical compact halo objects, or possibly WIMPs, which is weakly interactive massive particles. So I love how scientists clearly have a sense of humour about this. That's fantastic.
Incredible backronym.
They're lucky that those two those acronyms matched up so well. I was lucky how that worked out.
I mean, there's loads of really interesting ways they're searching for dark matter, aren't they? Like the Large Hadron Collider and then other interesting places too.
I mean, they have to do it in a lot of deep places. In fact, there's the Bolby mine in the UK is actually one of the deepest mines in Europe, and it's about 4,600 feet deep in this mine where there's this research centre looking for dark matter because there's so little background radiation down there.
So we're mining the dark matter out of the earth.
It's
They are
dark
down
matter
there looking
sounds
for it.
amazing.
And I really want to go
see.
down. So if you're listening,
I
Baldly
understand.
Mine people, I want to come down with my camera and just come and say hi. See what you're up to.
Absolutely.
Let's make
What if they
friends.
hit
How-
a rich seam of dark matter and it floods up all of your waist and
Well-
eats your legs?
I don't know. I'm wondering if I can take photos of it.
I presume-
Is it like trying to take photos of blacklight or?
I presume what will happen if they do hit a seam of dark matter is everyone will come out with evil goatee beards and they'll all be evil.
Yeah, wow. They'll have a mole on their cheek.
Yeah. So, 4,600 feet, that's a long way down. How long would that take to fall? Is the key question there.
I did look this up because you asked me this before,
Yeah.
and the only figure I can come up with is 15 seconds, but that is falling at terminal velocity, and
Yeah.
of course you wouldn't fall at terminal velocity the entire time.
But if it's deeper, wouldn't gravity be a little bit stronger near the bottom? So maybe you.
You'd probably be floating by the time you get down the bottom. I think that's how it works.
That
Yeah,
might not be a
15
thing.
seconds to fall. That's terrible. Let's not think about that.
But it wouldn't hurt until right at the end. So
When you hit
that's-
the dark matter.
Yeah, when you
fall into it with a big splash.
swim around.
Yeah, try getting that out.
And we've actually found some stuff as well, haven't we? I say we. Some scientists have actually found some. They can't find the dark matter, but they've found some other stuff, haven't they?
Oh, they
In-
found
in
loads of
space, yeah.
stuff.
They found
Oh,
stuff
I know
all
what you're
the time.
talking about.
Good. I'm glad someone does.
Yeah. You're talking about the comet.
I am talking about the comet. Yes.
Sweet, I remember
Comet
what I wrote.
67P that we talked about last week.
Yes, we have been talking about the comet and, of course, the Philae probe that has been landed on the comet. And comet, not comment.
It's
And
found organic matter, right?
It's found organic matter on this comet. Organic matter. Life forms, essentially, in a way.
Wow.
In a way.
Aliens?
Aliens,
I think there's a lot
yes.
of that kind of in a way. But that's aliens,
But-
in a sense.
Well, really,
You might
why
call
not?
them aliens.
But it is cool.
Let's jump to conclusions because it's more fun this way. So I'm going to jump to the conclusion right now and say that we have found aliens outside of Earth. That is pretty exciting, and even to the extent that the theory that all life on Earth arrived initially on a comet, this actually gives that argument potentially
Or
a bit of
left Earth
grounding.
on a comet.
Interesting.
Scientists, look into that, please.
I'm sure they already
back
are.
to me.
The question is, though, have they actually found marine life? Because then it would be a fillet of fish.
Ah!
Anyway,
Well done.
I think it's time to come back down to earth with a bump in the big picture. Nokia used to be the biggest phone manufacturer in the world, but those days are long gone. The phone business sold to Microsoft and the Nokia name disappearing from phones. Except the folks left behind aren't taking it lying down, and the Nokia name is being resurrected on a new tablet, an Android tablet no less. After betting big on Windows Phone, Nokia has turned to Google for the N1. Coming in early 2015, it's an Intel-powered 7.9-inch tablet running Android Lollipop with Nokia's own custom Z launcher interface on top, which lets you launch an app by swiping the first letter of the name with your finger. And it's one of the first devices to use USB Type-C, so you can stick the charging cable in whichever way round you like. Now, Andy, the hardware seems pretty decent, right? It doesn't seem too bad.
It does, yeah. It's got some decent specs. You say 7.9 inches. It's got quite a high-res screen. The Intel chip should be fairly speedy. It's actually very similar to the Jolla tablet that we're talking about at the beginning of the show. Physically, it looks quite a lot like an iPad Mini. It's got a very similar design, which
Absolutely.
it's not too bad. It looks nice.
It looks very similar, to be
looks
fair.
very- does look
But
very
then,
similar.
so also you use
There it
the
is.
Z launcher, which is available for lots of Android devices.
Yeah, so you can get the beta now of the Nokia Z launcher on the Google Play Store. So if you're curious to know how it works, then you can trot along and download that and give it a go.
Yep.
It's
It's all right. It's
It's
also
okay.
super
It's-
cheap, right?
How much does the tablet cost?
so for tablet, you'll be able to get it for, I believe, $250. So all the work which I'm seeing on screen now.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
around £200 mark, but
Yeah.
if we get it in the UK, obviously taxes and stuff is going to vary that quite a bit.
Do you guys
So
want to know
does-
what people have been saying about
Oh, absolutely.
about this?
Yeah, definitely. What have readers and listeners and viewers have seen it been saying?
Osman_Shez says, finally, Nokia is back in the game. It's like when Lionel Richie tried to come back and no one cared.
Harsh words, harsh words.
Harsh words. Mike Dabanowski says, another one for the tablet trash heap.
Oh, more harsh words. Poor Nokia.
And a human being says, I'm excited about this. The only thing I have ever liked about Apple is the build quality. Otherwise, iOS and Apple internals are mediocre. Nokia is known for using great internals and great build quality. Combine these two with the power of Android, and you have a winner.
Well, that's obviously a positive reaction, but there's a bit of a catch, human being. I'm afraid that Nokia isn't actually making this device. Right? All they've done is they've licensed the name because obviously they've sold off their hardware division to Microsoft.
Yeah, they don't make things anymore.
They don't make things anymore. All they've done is so that reputation they've got. I mean, this is a bit of a dodgy move, I think. The reputation they've got for this great hardware that they've had for years and years and years.
So what actually is it? Who makes it then?
It's made by Foxconn, which
means
means
that's the factory that makes.
That's
lots
right,
of technology, including Apple's.
They do.
Stuff.
They make lots of things. They're in China, and it's. I don't know. I reckon they might be selling out. It might be a bit cheap and nasty. I don't know. I mean, we'll see when we actually get our hands on it. But I'm not so sure about this.
Well,
Well,
I don't think that's that bad because I've seen some people sort of saying like, well, yeah, I mean, Nokia's sort of gambling with their good reputation with a sort of bit, potentially cheap and nasty thing that they've just bought in and slapped their name on. But if you see it from Nokia's point of view, it's only just shed itself of this massive failing phone business.
Yes.
So, it kind of must be liberating for the Nokia that's left, which is sort of into things like maps and phone masts and networking equipment, that kind of stuff. And I think they've been doing all right in the meantime. Nokia does have a history of sort of weird, bold moves as well. And to outsiders, Nokia has the Nokia brand value. So we're like, Nokia's making a tablet. That will be great because Nokia makes good things. But to the people actually making this, to Nokia, that was never them. They've not been doing that. That was just basically another company.
Yeah.
So apart from anything else, it's not like they even really had the option to make it themselves. It's like that bit's gone.
Yeah.
The bit that sort of makes stuff and is phones and devices and things is gone. So if Nokia wants to make a tablet, which it does, this seems like a reasonable move. Because if it did try and make it itself, is there really a guarantee that it would be good? Because Nokia has the bit that went.
That's true. Nokia has made tablets before, though, right? So they have.
Yeah. So it's got the 2520, which is it's Windows 8 tablet, which we saw I think last year.
I say we saw. I don't think anyone's really seen one in the wild.
I've never seen one in the wild. No, I have seen one. I have reviewed one, but I've not seen anyone actually buy one. And before that, it had the N800, I believe, which was
those were proper old school kind of like
2007 or something, tiny PDA style thing. But even those, that wouldn't have been the bit of Nokia that we're talking about, I guess.
So then, what do you think? Like Android tablets, are they a good idea generally?
Well. So increasingly companies aren't making money from Android phones, this much we know, and increasingly Apple isn't making as much money as it used to from tablets. So why you would put those together and make an Android tablet, I am not sure. But good luck to them. Like Nokia, it's
best of luck, guys.
We don't know, sort of like they're not kind of. It's not like when Nokia was primarily a devices company. It's not like sort of betting the farm on this one big product. This is more like a company that makes telephone masts being like, let's make a tablet. And if it didn't work, they'll be like, oh, okay, well, back to the mast.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about exactly. We've talked about Nokia a bit on nostalgia for Nokia, before. So it's good to have them still in the game. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
and they have had a long and storied history as well. So that's what we're going to talk about as we move on to the quiz. Yes, time for the Nokia quiz. The current leaderboard is Andy on 4, Jason on 5, and Luke on 6. So Andy, you really need this. You don't want to fall behind.
Yeah, I won't if we can do quizzes that I know anything about.
Which is just Men in Black 2.
If you did things about Men in Black, then fine, or Friends. Then
okay. Well, let's hear your buzzer noise. What does your buzzer sound like, Andy?
Sounds like this, Rich.
Golden memories, very appropriate. And Luke, nice. What does your buzzer sound like?
I found the best buzzer sound effect in the world.
If we play them together, it's a phone ringing.
Yep.
That's because
not a slaughterhouse, but a vibrating phone.
People listening to this on the podcast are probably like, unconsciously reaching for their phones. You confuse people like their phones. It's terrible. Okay, fingers on buzzers, fastest finger first. Stop it. Question 1, Nokia. Shut up. Question 1. Question 1. Sorry, Nokia was formed from 3 companies that over the years sold paper and rubber products. They generated electricity, they sold TVs, robots, plastics, chemicals and gas masks. But when did those 3 companies merge to form Nokia Corporation? think that was Luke was in there first.
1929.
Is not the correct answer. Andy, do you want to have a crack?
1945.
Well, you were closer. It's actually much later. It's 1967.
Oh, no way.
So there you go. Yeah, they have been around for like the years and years. Haven't they?
Since 1890 something.
Exactly.
yeah. At one point, I knew this. I had to look it up. Something.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Cool. Question 2. No one got that one.
Pretty happy
Oh,
there.
Andy got that. So 1 point to Andy. Yeah, great. Question 2. In 1937, Werner Weckmann became president of one of those 3 Nokia companies. But outside of Nokia, what was the sporting first for which he was well known? Andy, sporting first.
What? As in he?
Sports.
Oh, sports. I don't know anything about sport. He shot putted a frozen Christmas turkey 100 feet into a paddling pool full of delicious gravy, and everyone had the best Christmas ever.
Is the correct answer?
For only the second time in Europe.
I was sporting first.
As much as I wish that was the correct answer, I'm afraid it isn't. Luke, do you want to have a go?
Can I get a bonus point?
What was his name again?
His name was Werner Weckmann. This was 1937.
Sounds like a javelin name. Was it javelin?
You're kind of on the right lines.
Discus.
No, I'm afraid.
Shot put to turkey.
You're both sort of on the right lines.
Javelin to turkey.
He was an athletics
Discus
person.
There's no way I was on the right line.
Hurdles.
No,
Triple jump.
Now you're just being silly. He was in fact Finland's first Olympic gold medalist for wrestling. So there you go. So there you go. That's probably how they dealt with negative reviews back in those days.
Yeah,
Someone reviewed the new Nokia phone badly. He just came and pinned them to the floor.
Open the door. He's there, greased up, ready to go.
All right, question 3. In 1987, why was the chunky Cityman mobile phone, this is proper like yuppie 80s mobile phone,
Wall Street.
why was it nicknamed the Gorba? Who's going to buzz in? Luke's buzzed in.
Was it after Gorbachev?
It was after Gorbachev, yes, that's absolutely right. In 1987, he was pictured using one to call Moscow. So there you go. So that's 1-1, which means we're going to the tiebreaker. I hate the tiebreakers because it involves maths. But anyway, tiebreaker question. The Nokia 1100, I'm sure you all remember that, is the best-selling mobile phone of all time. But to the nearest million, how many units has it shipped?
Ooh.
Got to buzz in. Luke's buzzed in.
Luke's buzzed in.
Yep.
50.
50 million units.
50 million units.
Okay, that's not the correct answer. Andy, do you want to have a go?
150.
Is actually not that far off. Once again, you've got it. You are the closest.
Wow.
It was actually
How many was it?
More than 200 million units.
That's
so
How much
amazing.
more? 500 million.
Negligible amount. Yeah, you were the closest.
That I believe is about 50 million more than the Nintendo DS sold in all its variants, and that's the best-selling handheld games console ever.
Right.
So the best-selling phone ever. Much more popular than the best-selling.
Well, there you go. Absolutely. Good knowledge. Is that because you're doing a video on the DS?
Yes.
Well, look out for that one.
Yeah.
ladies and
Why not Google that? CNET Adventures Nintendo DS. That'll do it.
Good stuff. So
I
that's
won that
great.
quiz, right?
You did win.
I won
quiz.
the quiz, and I got.
Congratulations.
Can you just get a nice close up of my face, looking happy for a second?
Quiz winning Andy.
Well, it's a close-up of his
so
face.
happy.
And he does look happy.
Not too close. Nobody wants to see
No
that.
one needs this.
Oh my God!
That's far too
Zooming
close.
Further and further in.
So this is you're supposed to get people to want to watch this, not turn off. Anyway, right. Let's go to the feedback and let's see what people have been saying in the feedback.
David Franklin says, why are some phones and tablets that have an SD card limited on what size card they can take? Okay, so we believe this is a software-related thing. This is the kind of thing where like lots of phones can have a micro SD card slot, and they normally say something if you read the fine print like up to 32 or up to 64 gig or something like that. Andy, you had 2 HTC phones that were bizarrely
Yeah,
limited.
I mean, so like the HTC One M8 being the flagship, and that can take cards, I think up to 128 gig, but at least 64. Whereas the Desire 501 that I've got, it's running basically the same software, but that can only take it up to 32 gig, I believe, or maybe even less. So yeah, I mean, they all have micro SD card slots, so the hardware is there to accept it. So I guess it has to be a software issue. We don't actually know exactly what the reason is behind this, and whether it's down to sheer laziness that they haven't, that the companies haven't brought in the ability for them to accept bigger cards, or whether that's intentional to make maybe the budget phones more limited, which is
In a
then
small
obviously
way.
in a
Okay,
small way,
yeah.
therefore giving you a reason to go
wouldn't
for
put
the
it past
bigger
them.
phone with the bigger capacity.
David also says, why are Apple updates not called eye patches? It might make them sound more exciting and less annoying when I have to eye patch iOS 8 every few days.
That's true.
That's amazing.
You could.
iPatch.
It would be easier to pirate.
Hey!
Let's move on.
Arr. Spencer Bacat says, hello, regular listener. In fact, listening right now to the Comet quiz.
Aw, thanks, Spencer.
That was last week.
Stick with us.
Can you find out from Google or the BBC when they are going to fix iPlayer downloads on Android 4.4.4? I've just moved from iOS to Android, and this is my one very large regret. It worked perfectly on my old iPhone 4S, but not on my shiny new Android phone. So, on the BBC's website, on the iPlayer website, they have a statement of these issues, and there are a fair few glitches that they are acknowledging with recent Android versions. They say, playback starts to degrade after about 15 minutes of continuous normal playback of a downloaded program. This issue is specific to Android version 4.4.3 and 4.4.4.
Okay.
4.4.4
And you've asked the Beeb?
Yes, I have asked the BBC and I've spoken to them, but unfortunately, all they told me was that they have no more information that is on their the FAQ page already, which is. These issues have not been fixed in the latest app update, version 4.3.1.2. However, we are continuing to assist Google to resolve these problems.
Helpful.
Please be sure to accept future upgrades to your BBC iPlayer app and Android firmware so any fixes can take effect.
And Android generally gets the crappy end of the stick with these things, don't they? With these kind of services, don't they? Sky and
pretty
iPlayer and all
generally.
that kind of stuff.
I think iPlayer is better than some, but generally.
Mm.
And I've asked the BBC about this in the past, and they say just fragmentation is the kind of the answer pretty much every developer gives when you're like, why is the Android version?
While running away as fast as they can. Okay, and one last question.
Okay, Andrew Rimmer says, how long will it take for Google to organise their Nexus ordering system,
in inverted commas,
on the Play Store?
Yeah.
Andrew actually sent us a YouTube video of him failing to buy a Nexus 6 because Google's purchasing system is so weird and broken.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which doesn't really surprise us because that was something that we saw with the Nexus 4.
That's true. I mean, a couple of years back,
disaster.
Google had real stock problems. They were constantly in and out. They'd get them in for about half an hour and then they'd be gone, and then people really struggled to buy them. It was absolutely just a shame.
Got to sort it out. And also, like the Nexus 6 is not like the Nexus 4, which was a sort of fun budget alternative. The Nexus 6 is really expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I mean, to be fair, Google, they're only like a little mom and pop operation. There's not that many of them.
Exactly.
They're just like hand boxing these things and sending them out. There's only a couple of people.
wanted a phone.
Oh, we just made a little phone just for fun.
Do you want to try this one together?
Yeah.
I hope you like it.
Exactly.
Andrew also says, if that question is too hard, here's a much easier one. If 1 over 2x plus 1 over 2, open brackets, 1 over 2x plus 1 over 2, open brackets, 1 over 2x plus 1 over 2, open brackets, 1 over 2x plus ... equals y, then x equals question mark. Now, I don't know enough about maths to even understand if that's a joke. For all I know, that is genuinely a maths problem.
But it's still easier to answer than the Google question.
It's still easier to answer than why
Google can't fix it. It's stuff.
Sell you a Nexus 6.
Cool. All right then. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Please keep the feedback coming by emailing us at our email address, which I will tell you now. It is CNET UK Podcast at cbsi.com. Now you know.
It's a good email address.
Excellent.
It's a fine email address.
It's also
Right.
down here, if you look.
There it is, right at the bottom of the screen.
Look.
Well, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Luke. Thanks
you.
to our producer, Mark, who you will never see. Right, I think I found some dark matter. There's something weird in the back of my fridge. So we're going to go and have a look at that, and we'll see you next week.